Our message today is on do whatever Jesus tells you to do. Do whatever Jesus tells you to do. This is from Mary's instructions to some servants, which we'll talk through. The setting is this. There was a wedding in Cana of Galilee, and Mary was invited. And oh yeah, Jesus could go along too, and so could his disciples. But the text is pretty clear that Mary was the one that was first and foremost on the invitation list, and then Jesus and his disciples were also there. So at the wedding, a disaster happened, which at almost every wedding there's a YouTube moment. Some are funnier than others. Some are more horrible than others. But usually something happens that's worth talking about. Otherwise, 20 years later, you don't have anything to talk about when you remember your wedding. So there was a wedding in Cana of Galilee, and the wine gave out. So if you're throwing a party, this is bad news. If you're in college and you're having a kegger and the keg gets empty and you don't have backup, you can pretty much be assured that everybody's going to leave and go somewhere else. So it's not good news when you run out. Now, for many people, the place that they've run out is something different than wine. They've run out of ambition, or patience, or mercy, or money, or something. But many people in our community have run out, and this story speaks to that. When you're in a situation where something has run out, it's very helpful if there's someone present who knows Jesus. Because everybody else is going to say either nothing or start snarking about it on Twitter, or hopefully you'll have someone who knows Jesus and can say to Jesus, look at what's going on. So Mary said to Jesus, look, they have no wine. Now, if you look at this sentence, it is a flat sentence. It's just a statement of fact. There's no accusatory tone in it. But when you look at Jesus' reaction, you can tell that he's reading, he, I guess, knows what his mom is saying, even though she only says a flat statement, oh, look, they have no wine. His reaction, woman, what concern is that to me, you and to me? My hour has not yet come. In other words, it's their problem. Let them figure it out. I didn't bring a credit card just so I could pay for this wedding. Let them work it out. But Mary has something that Jesus responds to. This isn't Jesus' time, but he acts anyway. And he acts because Mary has faith and expectation. When you come to Jesus with faith and expectation, even if the time is wrong, you might get some pushback like this. Jesus say to you, woman, or idiot, if you're a guy, or something. You might have some pushback and have Jesus say, it's not time for that. And then the question is, how will you respond? How Mary responded was, she turned to the servants and she said to them, do whatever he tells you. In other words, she ignored him. She ignored his comment, at least, that it wasn't his time. She just said, do whatever he tells you. And then I assumed she wandered off. Maybe she just stood there to watch. But she didn't take any more action. She alerted Jesus to something that he already saw. But she alerted him that she noticed and that he ought to notice. And then she told others, do whatever Jesus tells you to do. So this is our theme for today. Do whatever Jesus tells you to do. Because what Jesus told the servants to do was, in those days, one of the reasons that the Jewish people survived so many plagues is because they have a lot of rituals about washing. And they had 6 jars so that there could be enough water for that. And each jar held 20 or 30 gallons. Jesus told the servants, go and fill those up. And when they filled them up, so if you're good at math, you can realize that's 120 to 180 gallons of wine. And I don't know how fast your friends drink, but that was a big party. This is after they have already served all the other wine. And if you know the story, you know that this, when the wine steward, the chief taster of wine, gets served this wine, he goes to the bridegroom and says, what are you doing? Everybody else serves the best wine first. Then when people are a little sloshed, you get out the bad stuff. And you have kept the good stuff until now. So a couple things about this story. Jesus serves you good things, not second best. The main point is this. Talk to Jesus about the needs that you see. So when you see somebody else, I started out by saying talk to Jesus about your needs, and I realized Mary didn't say, look, Jesus, I bent my nail. She brought to him something significant. And many times people, look, Jesus cares about your fingernails if they're important to you. Because Jesus cares about what you care about. But if we go to Jesus only with the whining about us, that's really not what Jesus has in mind. What Jesus has in mind is that you be looking at the whole environment around you, and what in that captures your attention. Bring that to Jesus. You can bring him the small stuff of your life, but also bring him the big stuff of the environment that you see around you. Talk to Jesus about the needs that you see for others, because some of them don't know Jesus. They aren't going to be talking to him. And that's the reason the need is so big. Jesus responds to faith and expectation even if the time isn't right. Even if there was a different plan, a different timetable, Jesus responds to faith and expectation. And Jesus provides in abundance with good things. You don't go to Jesus and say, look, the school cafeteria doesn't have any food, and this is an orphanage, and what are the kids going to do? And Jesus provides lima beans in abundance. That's not how it goes. Jesus provides, unless you're a lima bean fan. Can I just see? Anybody who, okay. 3 of you, Jesus would serve lima beans. Everybody else would get something better in our eyes. Jesus provides good things in abundance. So, what do you and others lack? As you scan your life and the community around you, what is it that's missing? Tell Jesus about it. Look, Jesus, see what's going on. One of the things that Jesus does in this story is when people come to him with what they're lacking, Jesus looks around to see what they have. And many times this by itself would be a helpful clue for us. As we're focused on things that we're lacking, look for what you have instead. And sometimes just that attitude switch will be enough to take care of the problem. In other times, observing what you have is the solution to the problem. What this family had was they had a lot of empty big jars, and they either had maybe a huge amount of water, like a lake or a river really close, enough to fill 120 to 180 gallons. That's a lot of water if you're in that community where Jesus was. So either they had access to a lot of water, or they had a lot of servants who could all go and get a little bit for a long, long time. But whatever it was, they either had water or lots of servant power to go get water. Jesus observed that and used what they had. Now, sometimes that by itself will be enough. You look and see what is it that you have and start working with that in terms of what you lack. So you use the resources that you have in the problem of what you lack or what somebody else lacks. Sometimes that by itself will be enough. Occasionally, you're going to need Jesus in the middle of it. Because now you've got what you have in abundance. We've got a lot of water. But what you really need for a party, I would be happy with the water. If I come to your party, I'm going to ask you for water because that's the lima bean that I like. And if you serve me something else because you think, water's not that special, I'll be gracious. But you're not giving me what I really want. Because what I really want is water. I'm happy with other things, but what I really want is water. At a party, people wanted wine. So if you're serving 120 to 180 gallons of water, the guests who are friends of yours and don't have a flippant attitude will be polite. But the friends of yours who tell you what they think, they're going to be all over it. All right, so in council, we've been talking for some months about a conversation that Peter Drucker, a management consultant, advised American industry to look at, and it's about time we got the congregation looking at this too. It's helpful, if you want to do something strategic, to look at unexpected successes and unexpected failures. Where are there things going on that are out of the normal, not what you thought? Either successes or failures. So, old-time example of the successes is a guy who sold milkshake machines. One of his clients bought way too many compared with the town and the little tiny place that this guy had. He bought way too many milkshake machines, and so he went to investigate. Why does this one person need so many milkshake machines over the top of everybody else? What he discovered was a guy who had standardized and mechanized the food process so well that at his shop people could be in and out faster and faster. And I used that was an unfortunate use of phrase because I'm talking about McDonald's, not any other competitor. He bought that system and it turned into McDonald's because he noticed an unexpected success. When you notice an unexpected success, it's often an opportunity. And Peter Drucker, as he's talking about this, says there's a lot of times corporations completely ignore this because they don't want to see the success. They're working on a cancer treatment kind of thing or some pharmaceutical for humans, and the farms keep ordering it. And the company, it doesn't like cows. They're not concerned about cows, they're not worried about cows, and it's irritating to them that all the farmers keep ordering this drug that they intend for humans. You look for unexpected successes. And you also look for unexpected failures. When you're doing something normally and it always works, but it doesn't. It may be that you have scheduled a birthday party for your 3-year-old on Super Bowl Sunday, and for some reason, no dads showed up with their kids. So there may be a reason for it that's just a one-time blip, but it also often signals a change in society that is unexpected, unknown. Maybe you can't even tell what it is, what's driving it, but you see the phenomena. So when you have unexpected successes or unexpected failures, the innovator, Peter Drucker says, should ask, what would exploit this incongruity? What would be helpful to take advantage of this new situation? What would convert it into an opportunity? And what can be done? So Jesus, looking at a bad situation, an unexpected failure, they ran out of wine, what can be done? So if you've got a problem in the context of today's lesson, the most important thing you can do is to talk to Jesus about it. And then, Mary's advice, do whatever he tells you. So I've had a number of people ask me this week, what can they do to help while we're waiting to hire an admin assistant? Probably a month and a half away yet, maybe a month away. And so I want to review with you things that I've been talking about since I got here. When I got here, what I wanted to do was establish something that it turns out it doesn't work very well, but it's the only idea I've got, so I'm going to still. What I'm hoping for is that you will be trained so that whether I'm here or not, you know what to do. Whether the world falls apart or gets gloriously, giddily wonderful, you will know what to do. You don't have to call up the pastor or an elder or consult your Bible because you'll be so wired. Now it's hardwired to know what to do in every situation. It's good to read the Bible. It's good to be in community. It's good to talk to me. But it's not good to be dependent on things that you don't have access to. You really should be better than that. So, here is what Jesus tells everybody. Just a refresher. If you're going to do what Jesus tells you to do, what is it that Jesus tells everybody to do? Everybody in here, this is what Jesus tells you to do. Number one, love God above all else. If you like baseball better than God, that's not good. If you like your spouse or your company or whatever it is, your kids, that's not better than God, that's not good. It's good to love your kids. It's really nice to have a job that you enjoy. But if you put that ahead of God, you're on the way to the ditch. And you really need to fix that before it causes horrible problems for you. Number two, love yourself. Some of you are good at this already. Some of you are not so good at this. You haven't forgiven yourself for something that Jesus died for 2,000 years ago and that you've been confessing to God for 30 years. Get out of that mud. Pigs like mud. You do not need to be a pig. It's over. You're washed. You're clean in God's eyes. It's done. So it was unfortunate. Move on. I've got a story about a guy who's on an airplane that he first doesn't know if he's going to actually buy a ticket. It's a big deal for him, but he finally gets over his anxiety, buys an airplane ticket, gets on the airplane. The story talks through all the up and the down. Finally lands. Plane lands, and he's so disappointed. Nothing's changed. The person on his right's the same. The person on his left's the same. Flight attendant is the same. Interior. He thought, after all that time and effort, that something would change. And some of you are thinking, that's a stupid story. But people who think that's a stupid story, many of them are still stuck on airplanes that landed a long time ago and they've never gotten off. And it's time. Your divorce was 30 years ago. It's time to get off that plane and see where you've landed. It's someplace new. It's not where you used to be. It's someplace new. Get off that plane. Okay, so love yourself. Third one, love people that you see in need and parts of creation that you see in need. Jesus said you should love yourself and love your neighbor, and how Jesus defined your neighbor was the person that you see in need, or the part of creation that you see in need. So how do you do that? Jesus trained his disciples that there's a number of ways that you can love God and love yourself and love your neighbor that are strategic. Jesus said, announce good news to the poor. In La Jolla, there are plenty of poor people. They have fabulous riches, fabulous income perhaps, amazing houses, and they're desperately wrecked and poor in some area. Announce good news to them. If their son's on drugs, whatever their situation is, announce the good news to them in that situation. Jesus says, everybody here, you're wondering what to do, announce good news to people who are poor. They don't have to be poor overall. Some area of their life where they're poor, announce good news to them in that spot. Heal the sick. This is your somebody. I've had multiple requests this week. What can we do to help while the admin assistant while we're hiring one? Heal the sick. It's one of the things you can do. Cleanse the lepers. So in Jesus' day, the lepers were people that the church said, don't go near them. And society said, don't go near them. Jesus' words were, you get close enough that you can touch them and cleanse them, so that they know that God loves them. Society has abandoned them, the church has abandoned them, God has not. There is nobody outside God's loving mercy, but some people don't know that. Cleanse those people. Get close. It's easy if you're in school to tell who the lepers are. If you're in a business, it's probably still easy to tell who the lepers are. Cast out demons. Far easier than you may guess. If you see a commotion that's out of control, just silently command the spirits that are stirring that up to leave. There's no reason for things to go on except that people don't assert the authority Jesus gave them to cast out demons. Now, how can you tell? Well, one way to tell is if you've got a big commotion going on and you say, "Spirit of anxiety be gone," and nothing happens, maybe it wasn't a spirit of anxiety. But if it all calms down, which it often does, then that's pretty good. After you stack up enough of these, you can say, well, it looks like there's a lot of spirits around where I don't see any. But you don't see any germs on your hands either. And hopefully you wash your hands before you eat. That's a different lecture. Jesus tells everybody, raise the dead. And you may not be good at this yet in terms of people who have actually died, and there's very few cases in the Bible where this happens, but there's enough over time where it has happened repeatedly, and it has happened in the last century, the 20th century, and it has happened in this one. So you can raise the dead, but for many of us, we can easily raise the dead in terms of people who've given up hope, people who are dead to the world. Raise them. So that's what Jesus tells everybody. We're going to wind up with how you can know what Jesus tells you specifically. Jesus tells you specifically a number of things, but I don't have enough time to call out, well, Sue, for you it's this, and Leslie, for you it's this, but I'll tell you how you can discover it if you haven't already. Ask yourself, what are your talents, abilities, and spiritual gifts? What are the things that you are already good at? If you've been playing baseball since you were 2 years old, and you're now 35, it's probably a talent of yours. What are your talents, abilities, and spiritual gifts? Ask another question. What are your interests? Some people are very interested in China. Other people, they have no interest in China. What is it that you're interested in? What brings a smile to your face? Third question. What good impressions keep coming to you? So the first two are things that we know already. And now this one is things that God is trying to tell us. When you have an impression of something good, but you think they'd be scary and you don't do it because often it's something that you will become good at, but you need some practice. And the reason that the idea keeps coming to you, even though you can't figure out why is that idea coming to you, is because it's an awesome idea from God that God is presenting to you. So, what Jesus tells only you, you're going to find at the intersection of your abilities and your interests, your impressions and your responsibilities. If you have a 3-year-old and you're asking, I don't know what to do with my life, it's painfully obvious to everyone else. You have a 3-year-old. And when they're 23, you can relax a bit. But when they're 3, you don't have a lot of room to relax. You need to be on top of it pretty much the whole time. So your responsibilities will dictate, in some cases, the kinds of things Jesus is saying specifically to you. But also Jesus will talk to you specifically in a still small voice, probably not words, but impressions, about things that you are already good at. Now, Some of you think, it's been an awful long message. I've delivered half of it. The other half is going to be at the forum today. So at the forum time, which is, about 15 minutes after coffee starts, maybe 20, you'll hear a bell. That's a signal to meet in the library, and anybody who wants to meet in the library, I've got a long list of ways that you can specifically help out here. It'll probably show up in the newsletter mailed on Monday, perhaps, but we don't have an admin to type it in, so I don't know. What's far more important is for you to do what God has called you to do. We have a few things around here that could be done. It'd be nice if somebody eventually painted the posts out there so we didn't look so ugly to our neighbors. But seems to not be bothering most people. So I probably need to get over it or get out a paintbrush. It's bothering me a little bit. So I'm probably the one who needs to go doing some painting. What is it that you notice? You notice something else that is just yours to do. And if you want to know what you can do to help out while we're trying to hire a new admin assistant, it's what you notice. It's something that you are good at already, or that God wants to give you practice at, even though you're really not that good yet, but you will be after you get more practice. We're going to take a moment for prayer. God, thank you for Mary's advice that we should do whatever Jesus tells us to do. And maybe for some people, Jesus has gotten tired of saying it and has just quit. We already know. We don't need Jesus to tell us again. We know. We just haven't done it. So for people in that spot, God, we ask that you open their eyes and their spirits to how good it would be to follow Jesus. Others are cheerful servants. They're at filling water, putting water into those big stone jars, or big jars, and filling it up, wondering what will happen. So thank you for the people who are being faithful to you, even though they can't see what sort of difference it'd make. Who cares if you have 120 gallons of water? But you have called them to do it. And you know what's going to happen to that water. So for people who are being faithful to you, Jesus, even though they can't understand why it might matter, we thank you for them. And thank you for the Marys who are able to see the need of creation and report it to you in faith and expectation. Keep moving in our lives with power, God. We praise you. Amen.